Painting Nurse Stories, Hacky Sack Roach. Just a quick disclaimer that this story is not a reflection of the cleanliness of the facility, but just a general part of living in a world full of bugs. I had been caring for a patient who had been diligently taking notes since arriving to the hospital. They were tracking every encounter, every interaction, questioning every action. Who was I? What was my title? My experience? Why was I entering the room? What was I doing? Why was I doing it? What medication was I giving? What was the medication for? How did it affect the body? What doctor prescribed it? On it went, with me stumbling through the answers, lacking the confidence that comes with time. It was enough questioning from the patient to warrant a heads up for the charge nurse to pop in and check on things while I went about my shift trying to make things as neutral and as pleasant as possible. When I spotted a cockroach skitter across the floor and crawl under the door of their room, I looked at their door in disbelief, questioning why it had to go into that room of all the other rooms where any other patient would have been more understanding. I paused at the door, knowing I couldn't just ignore the roach and allow the possibility of a worse situation to arise, like the roach making its way into their bed at some point. And so I quickly made up the excuse in my mind that I was going to go into the room to empty the trash, which was sitting just inside the door. I went in, relieved, as I spotted the patient with their eyes closed, appearing to be asleep, and looked around as quietly as I could. After a few minutes of being unable to locate the roach, I went back out into the hallway and called over a coworker to come help me find it. The only items on the floor, other than the trash can, were the legs of the bed and the bedside table, so we searched those quickly but thoroughly. My coworker looking under the trash can and beneath the liner, me searching behind the wheel of the table and the cords of the bed that go to the wall, with no roach in sight. We met back in the hall, shrugging and having no idea where it could have gone, when a series of expressions crossed my coworker's face. Concern, discomfort, shock. She looked down at her shoes in horror, and before I could ask, she leapt up into the air, jumping into a jig, kicking her leg out sideways, and quietly screaming, which sounded more like a squeal echoing down the hallway, garnering attention. She reached down, pulled up the pant leg that had been dragging on the floor up to her knee, where she exposed the roach, clinging to her leg, and she started kicking wildly. She flung the roach in a perfect arc straight across the hallway, punting it directly into another patient's room. She began running in small circles, shaking the EBGBs from her body, as another coworker came to see what was going on. We explained, and after receiving a judgmental expression with an accompanying eye roll, they grabbed a glove, walked into the room, and came back out 30 seconds later with the expired roach. I checked the floor compulsively the rest of the shift after that, feeling itches and tingles crawl across my skin, always making sure my scrub bottoms were never dragging on the floor, lest a roach crawl up. Thanks for listening. Fall for more. Ever had a bug encounter at work?